Welcome everyone to Overcome Podcast. This is episode 57. And today we are going to talk with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion multiple times, a lot of accomplishment. But one of the things that really brought me to invite this guy for the show is his journey through some major injuries that I'm very, very curious to see how he is doing and everything. So welcome to the show, Kodiak Fields.
Thank you, Yuri. Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely, Kodiak. Thank you very much for making the time for this. And just to get started, I went to your website, and it's quite amazing all the accomplishments. 2 times World Master Championship, 2 times No Gi World Champion. I mean, it's a huge list of accomplishments. So congratulations for that amazing journey.
Thank you. Yeah, that's just in black belt.
Yeah,
So there's
that's just in black belt.
yeah, I had a nice run at color belt too, but the thing with once you get your black belt, we don't really talk about the color belt accomplishments anymore.
Yeah, I noticed that. I noticed that.
Just like those are just black belt. So my brown belt, my purple, they're in a nice, beautiful case, but they're no longer displayed in my office because we just look at what have we done recently, right?
Yes.
That's the most important thing.
Absolutely. And when did you start? How many years ago?
I started in October of 2008.
So you already start after 30 when you were
Oh yeah.
on your 30s.
Yeah, and when I started, within the first month, I was competing, and I competed as both an adult and a master. So when I went to tournaments, I would go in and compete in both divisions, both adult and masters, both gi and no gi. If they're basically, when I went to a tournament, if I was allowed to compete in that division, didn't matter what it was, I would do it. So I competed as much as possible.
But did you had any martial arts experience before jiu-jitsu?
I did. I came up in Taekwondo. So as a young teenager, my parents put me in TKD to assist with some bullying that was happening in my younger years.
Hmm.
And needless to say, that within the first year of training Taekwondo, that bullying stopped. But that's my competitive martial arts career started within Taekwondo.
Okay, so you already had that competitive vein in you before you even joined jiu-jitsu.
I had a competitive vein in me the moment I came out of my mother's womb. So I was always competitive. I mean, I don't remember a time when I wasn't. Now, of course, it's there have been waves,
Yeah.
right? Intensities, but I've always been a rather competitive person. That's just how my family is. We're I come. Both my parents were competitive athletes, and so it's really safe to say being competitive is ingrained in my DNA.
You are in a great shape, and it looks like you always been in a great shape. Is that a fair assumption that you always been in a great shape? You never had problems with weight or anything?
I mean, it's depends who you ask. If you were to ask my coaches right now, they would say that I'm definitely overweight, and I agree with them. So no, I've had some issues with my weight. When I started jujitsu, I was a 260 pound power lifter, and then within the first year, I cut down to about 215 of lean, mean muscle, which was great. But I celebrate with food. I commiserate with food, which means I don't have the best relationship with it.
Hmm.
And a direct result is that my weight will yo-yo. So currently, I'm sitting about 17 pounds over where I need to be in order to be at what I would deem my peak performance. So that means that I'm overweight right now, and it's okay because that's part of my process. It's part of what the roller
Yeah.
coaster of how I celebrate with food, and there's a lot to celebrate right now, Yuri.
Yes, absolutely.
So life is great, and so I've been eating very, very well. I love I love Wagyu. A5 Wagyu steaks are just amazing. The restaurants in Miami, to be honest, I've never had a bad meal in Miami. The fine dining here is just delicious. It's plentiful. So I have
And
overindulged.
and
However,
you competed on super heavy or heavy?
so I started competing at super heavy, and then I've gone between ultra and super depending on what was happening with my weight.
Okay.
My first year at black belt, I competed as a super heavy, and then I started to pack on some weight, and not just by eating, but because I was lifting again.
Hmm.
And if I look at weight, I put muscle on. I just have that body type. So when I start lifting it, I put lean muscle on really quick. And I didn't see the benefit of dropping weight and losing the muscle that I built.
Yep.
And so and plus I'm faster and just as strong as the 300 pounders that I fight in the ultra heavyweight division. Plus my technique's better. So technique's better. I'm faster and I'm just as strong. Bring on the heavy boys. I'll take them. Right?
But when you won the World Master 2020, you were in the super heavyweight, right? Division?
No, sir. I was an ultra
Oh, you
heavyweight.
were ultra. Okay.
Yeah. So I had I think I had three submissions in that division, and then three submissions and a closeout. So I submitted my first three opponents, and then I closed out with my teammate Victor Doria
Hmm.
in the ultra heavyweight division, and then he and I went into the open division where we met again in the
Oh,
finals.
wow.
We closed out again.
Nice.
So yeah, it was awesome. So so that it's an amazing feeling to meet your teammate and brother in the finals of a world championship.
Yeah.
And there were moments where we thought we were going to fight. We were, there was a debate going on, but it was pretty simple. The previous time we met in a world championship was in Nogi,
Hmm.
where I gave him gave him the title. So I gave him the win there. So the next one was my turn.
Hmm.
And then, and the great thing about it is I told him, I'm like, look, we're going to close out now, but I'm going to meet you in the open finals. And he was exhausted. Right. And I'm like, Victor, we're taking the open too. And he goes, okay, all right, fine. So it was much easier for him to pay me back with the final gold medal in the ultra because of the thought that, hey, it's coming back. And it's so awesome when we're on opposite mats and we're coming off the mat cheering for each other's victory
Yeah.
and just going back to the bullpen and getting pumped up. And it's amazing experience when you put that much time and effort behind accomplishing a goal
Hmm.
and you're able to do it with your dear friend at the highest level of jiu-jitsu. Just an amazing experience.
Was that year, you believe, your best year in your jiu-jitsu journey as far as how you felt physically and everything?
I would say that 2020 was arguably my best competitive year, based upon the accolades that were achieved. Right. So in my jujitsu at that time was on point. And so I think it's accurately to say that my game felt amazing and unstoppable. The accolades proved just that, and it was and I also earned the number one world ranking in that year. So all of those things combined,
Yeah, great year.
it was a pretty good
Yeah.
year.
So when you look back, what do you think that you did right as far as, keeping yourself healthy, injury free? How often were you training? Were you training every day? Were you taking some days for recovery? Why it was such a perfect year, you believe, when you reflect on that?
So during COVID, I kept training.
Every day
And
now.
so I don't train every day. I train at least 5 to 6 days a week, depending on how my body's feeling. I always train at least 5 days a week. So unless I'm sick or injured, it's 5 days a week minimum.
And just
During
to clarify, when you say training, I'm talking about jiu-jitsu training, not lifting.
yeah, so I do 5 days of jiu-jitsu and 3 days of strength and conditioning.
Okay.
And strength and conditioning is not what it used to be like lifting heavy weight,
Mm-hmm.
right? Strength and conditioning for me now is it's called Champion Fit, run by Coach Maggie Grandotti, and she has developed a program which is specific to jiu-jitsu. So it's practically applicable for our sport. It's hit training, so high
Yep.
intensity intervals. The it's We have explosive days, we have mobility days, we have strength days, and so there's basically a program established for the goal. So, right now our team's getting ready for Pan Am 6 weeks out. So we have a program which is specifically designed for everyone that's competing at Pan Am's, so that those athletes peak. More importantly, we have ADCC, which happens next weekend, which is our pro team. Our pro team has a very specific program so that they hit their peak performance next weekend. And that's the benefit of having a professional strength coach on your team. You go and you establish what your goal is, and then she creates the plan. All you have to do is show up.
Excellent. Yeah, that's great. And
So
what about your diet at that point? Were you in a very lean diet?
my diet was about functionality rather than lean. I was starting to come down. I'd flirted with the concept of coming back to super heavy until I got the call to fight Tom DeBlas. Tom, being a legend in the
Mm-hmm.
sport of jiu-jitsu and a dear friend of mine, called me and said, "Hey, you know what? Before this is extended, I wanted to get your thoughts and make sure that we are on the same page with expectations of how we're going to promote the event." And once we had that conversation, we determined that we were going to move forward with having that super fight. But with Tom, we knew that Tom wasn't going to play a stand-up game with me. He's not. That's not what he's known for. He's known to be a guard player, so we know that he would pull. And it didn't make sense for me to drop weight on somebody who was just going to play guard. So we changed my programming to be more strength based and to pack on muscle. So I got up to 250 pounds to fight Tom.
Wow.
And but there was a purpose for that, right? Gravity and 250 pounds of pressure bailing down on top of him. That's
Mm-hmm.
why I won the fight, because it's it's a lot of weight to carry, especially when it's barreling down the whole time. It's
Mm-hmm.
relentless, just intense pressure. It's very difficult to stop something
What
like
was
that.
his weight at that time?
He was I think he was in the 230s at that point. He was in the upper 230s. We didn't weigh in for that fight officially because it was the unlimited weight class title that we were fighting for.
Makes sense.
But I believe it was in the 230s because after the match, we were talking about doing a rematch, and his stipulation was it had to be no more than I had to weigh no more than 235 to make sure that I didn't have such an advantage in weight, because in grappling weight is an advantage.
Mm-hmm.
The promotion nor Tom, nobody set a cap, which was a mistake for them, advantage to me. So I just bulked up.
It was a great strategy. It was a great strategy
It,
for sure.
It wasn't mine. I have a coaching team that we develop our strategies together, and that was actually Wagner Rocha. Wagner was the one that he was one of my main coaches for that fight, and Wagner was very insistent on, hey, let's stay big and let's stay strong and let's smash Tom. That was the game plan, and well, it
It
worked.
worked. It worked for sure. It did work. Uh, but when you announce it was October 4th, 2021, because I have the post open here, where you talk about that you were having a hard time, not able to even walk or
Yeah.
stand or even sit pain free. It must have been horrible to not even be able to walk without feeling pain. And you said clearly here that this was the end of your competitive jiu-jitsu days, and then you went to the surgery. You look pretty healthy, and look like you had a great recovery. So talk a
Yeah,
little bit more about that recovery, how it was,
sure.
and how you feeling right now. You still training jiu-jitsu? It's just a matter of you not able to compete, or are you still thinking that you're gonna compete again one day?
So I'm not going to place an extreme on anything, right? I'm not going to say never or always, or that's just it's not how I roll, right? I did train this morning. I've trained 5 days this week, so I'm back on the mat. I'm rolling at about 55 to 60% of my abilities. So it's I'm not in the pro training sessions because that's I'm not ready for that yet. But what got me here, I think, is the most important aspect of
Yep.
this is that I had a double pars fracture, spondy, and 5 degenerated discs with a an impingement on my nerve. So basically, what happened was my pars was fractured, and the pars keeps your vertebrae in place. That vertebrae was moving and started to impinge upon my nerve, and that was causing numbness into my right leg, which would then extend into my glutes and my lower back, and then my entire lower back would start to cramp, which would lead to the entire back cramping up. Right, so it's basically it would just spread. Um, when I was diagnosed with this, it was my first year as a black belt, and at that point, I hadn't accomplished a major tournament yet. And the spine surgeons told me that jujitsu, as I knew it, was over. That I would not be able to compete again. That I needed this surgery immediately, and that once I had surgery, that there was no way I was going to be doing jujitsu the way that I knew jujitsu, and that really angered me that somebody could take jujitsu away from me like that. And at that point in my symptoms, I would stand for about a half hour before the onset would begin,
Hmm.
and it started again with the leg starting to go numb, and then it would just the longer I was on my feet, especially on a hard surface, for example, if I was standing on concrete or walking on concrete, the hard surfaces seemed to increase my symptoms at a faster rate, and it was about a half hour when it started. But as the time went on, well, so then what I did was I told them to pound salt, because how dare they tell me that I'm not going to do jiu-jitsu, right?
Hmm.
I haven't accomplished what I came here to accomplish. I wanted to win major titles, and I went home that night and I made a list of the titles that I was going to win in Euros, Pan Am's, the Worlds, and Fight to Win. Right, those were the big tournaments that I was going to win, and so I made that list, and
And just
um,
to be
and then I
clear, that
started
list was you made that list in 2019 or 20?
2016.
Oh, 16. Wow. So that injury is old.
This injury actually happened a long time before that, but it started to become something that I finally went in to get it diagnosed in 2016. It was right after I got my black belt, and so I made that list, and I made jujitsu my priority, and I put everything else. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love my family, I love my career, but at that time, I knew that there was a clock on when I was going to have to stop.
Hmm.
That I had a very short time period on when I could accomplish this list. So I made that list the primary focus of my life. That's it, right? I've got these few years, and we didn't know how long it was going to be, but we knew it was not going to be a long period. And so I went out, and the first year I did doubles. I did a silver at Pan Am's and a bronze. I fought Godoy twice. I lost a rep decision in the finals. And then I had the that year at Worlds, I took a silver medal. Got knocked out of the Open. The next year, silver and bronze, got knocked out. So it's like I'm on the podium, I'm chipping away, but that gold medal in a major was eluding me. And then boom, I hit my first gold medal, right? And so I hit my first gold medal the year before I moved to Miami. I hit that under Roberto Travin when I was training in Atlanta, and then right after that, I joined Fight Sports when we moved to Miami. And so that's when my career really started to take off because I was training with our professional athletes, and
Hmm.
there is nothing that I've never experienced the level of jujitsu that is here at Fight Sports Miami. It's family centric. It's a very passionate environment, one of always looking to help others. Like we focus on how can we help our fellow teammate. It's not about how can I get better, it's how can I make you better.
Yep.
And when you have an entire room of professional athletes with that same mindset, it just raises everyone
Yeah.
up.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And during our rounds, we're trying to absolutely kill each other. We're simulating murder, literally. That's what submitting someone is, right? You're going until they tap. When someone taps, they're saying that they cannot stop you from either killing them or causing serious injury. That's what a submission is. So we're simulating murder, right? And then when the round's over, big hugs, talk about what just happened, and then I'm on to the next one, right? And you like within that round, you literally want to kill that person, and then the bell goes off, and you flip the switch back. This is my friend. This is my brother. This is my teammate, right?
So there is
And
no such
so,
a thing as going easy.
not in pro training. No, there's no easy pro training. It's a room full of professional athletes that are there for one reason to make their grappling better, and we don't make ourselves better by going easy on each other, right? We
Hmm.
go hard. It's pohada, right? That's every round is pohada.
Hmm.
So I prepared for the to accomplish those goals by training rigorously, 5 days a week minimum, 3 days strength and conditioning, keeping my diet on point, meaning that I'm eating fuel, which helps me to perform the best during training. And just as you mentioned, October 4th, I got hit with the point that I was preparing for the next tournament. My pain was so bad that I couldn't sit here and talk to you without my symptoms being
Did the
excruciating.
pain in at any point got better? Like when you warm up, when you were already into the thing, did it get better, or it was same thing?
So it's my symptoms disappeared during jujitsu.
Really, completely.
It's completely disappeared. So when I got warmed up and I got on the mat, no issues until the very end. When I mean the very end, I'm talking like the final weeks where the last day before surgery, I was in pro training, and I wasn't able to complete the warm up because of my symptoms were just unbearable. And Cyborg grabbed me and he's like, what's wrong? Do you need to stretch? What just being a good coach and leader and friend, trying to talk me through how we could mitigate what was taking place. And I just burst into tears. I'm like, I just can't do it. I'm in so much pain. And he looked at me and he's like, it's time, isn't it? It's time for you to go get your back fixed. And that was the moment. It's like, okay, that's it. Now, fortunately for me, I was introduced to a man who went through this surgery, Nick Babalu, and Nick had introduced me to his doctor. Nick was on the mat rolling at a high level within 1 year after surgery, and so through those conversations, he gave me hope that I could do the same. So when I had that day on the mat where I surrendered to the fact that my career was over, and it was time for surgery, I went in and I had the surgery done. And so I woke up from surgery pain free,
Now,
no symptoms.
Now, I can only imagine how hard for you it was post surgery, sitting and resting for many days because I had some surgeries as well, and I know that the post surgery for active person like you, it's kind of traumatic because you probably were missing training, you probably missing physical activity because you've always
Yeah.
been so active, and it's not easy for you to be in the top of the podium winning a world championship and suddenly you are in bed unable to do what you love to do. So how was your mindset at that point? What really got you through that, and it gave you hope to see the other side?
So it was my physical therapy plan. And so I diverted my attention to what I was able to do, not what I wasn't able to do. Practicing the serenity prayer. I focused on the things that I could control. And what I could control in the beginning was the level of, well, I could control the activity within the parameters that were set. So for the first few months, the only thing that I could do was walk. That's it. Could only walk. Well, Yuri, I live on the beach.
Hmm.
And I before the surgery, I wasn't able to walk on that beach without being in excruciating pain. I wasn't able to walk into town, what's about a mile to walk into my favorite restaurants from where I live because I was in excruciating pain. So I celebrated the fact that I could walk with my soulmate into town and have an awesome dinner and be pain free. I could walk on the beach with her for hours and be pain free. And so every morning I started it with walking on our beach path as the sun rose over the ocean. And that is extremely
Yeah.
powerful. It's invigorating. It taps into the spirituality. And it's like when you watch that sun crest over the ocean horizon, man, it's there's
Beautiful.
nothing like it.
Yeah, it's
So
beautiful. And I think that the most important part is that you are feeling at that moment such a gratitude just for the fact that you are able to do something so simple but you were not able to do before.
exactly. So I celebrated the little things, and so what I did was I invested into the Fitbit so that I could track my steps, and so I started to measure my KPIs and basically understand. Okay, today I went a mile and a half. This entire week. Okay, next week I'm going to do 2 miles, and then the week after that I'm going to do 2.5 miles, and I would do 2 walks a day, and simply just keep building, week over week over week, and continue to increase the time that I was on my feet doing my physical therapy. And then I got released to do swimming. And I was a former swimmer. So I invested in form goggles, which are a really cool technology where you have a heads up display within your goggles and it tracks everything.
Nice.
Every KPI a swimmer would want to understand is tracked within this technology. So then, I had buddies who would rotate in and come swim with me. My jiu-jitsu brethren would come and swim with me and soak in the hot tub, and then then I was cleared to start lifting some weights, and then so I would add that to it. So it was like when these activities were added back into my physical therapy,
It,
I
yeah,
celebrated it
but you
because
brought a new motivation for you to keep going. You were actually seeing progress.
right.
Did
It,
you did you somehow gain weight because you were not so active at that point, or did you actually lose weight?
I don't think it was because I wasn't so active. I think that I know, I know that I was gaining weight because I was celebrating
With food.
the fact that I could walk to these restaurants,
Yeah.
and yeah, there was no dieting going on. Your body needs calories to heal. I may have overindulged. But it was worth it. It
Yeah,
was worth the experience. It was worth the celebration.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And
And how many months after the surgery did you go back to, to the mat to at least do some drills and things like that?
so my doctor cleared me for light training 6 months after, and so I may have got into that a little I wouldn't say reckless, but let's say this. Let's say that once I was able to do a full round, right, where I could actually roll, I started to pick it up real quick. So it started off as the first, when I got cleared to the mat, it was drills. I did drills, no resistance, and then I was doing my champ fit and cardio. But I really just wanted to focus on the jujitsu because that's my passion.
Mm-hmm.
And then and I told myself, I'm like, okay, I'm going to take at least the first 2 months and just do drills. Well, that went out the window when we started to increase resistance. And I'm like, hey, I'm okay, right? I'm doing good. And then my knucklehead thought it would be a good idea to go jump into the pro training.
Oh, wow.
And so the first week I came in to do pro training, at the end of that week, my entire back locked up. It scared the hell out of
Oh,
me.
goodness.
I scared me so bad, Yuri, that I had to recognize that I was doing too much too fast.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you
So,
you recognize that.
well, I didn't have a choice. My body was,
Your body was like,
it's
stop.
yeah. Hey, knucklehead, you're doing too much. We're gonna. My entire back locked up and said, "Whew, you need to chill out." And so I did, and I met with my coaching team and my physical therapist, and we mapped a more detailed plan on my return to jujitsu. So now I only train in the 6 a.m. group, right? Not with the pro team right now, just 6 a.m. I stick to Champ Fit at least 2, if not 3 days a week, and then I do jujitsu, 4 to 5 days a week, and that's a good regimen for me now. Rebuilding my body, rebuilding it for the purpose of jujitsu, but just overall strengthening everything
Yeah.
so that it's building blocks. So the next step would be then, I'll start to trickle into the evening class, which is a little more competitive in nature. And then once I'm able to handle that class well without having any, offsets or let's call it backslides
Mm-hmm.
in muscle soreness or anything that would lead me to believe that I'm overdoing it, then I'll start to appear again in the pro room. But it's good to have waypoints, and
Yes.
and that's what I have to recognize. I can't go from 0 to 60 after surgery. It doesn't make
Yeah,
sense.
absolutely not. Absolutely not. And you're gonna be 1 year post surgery in October, right? You did the surgery in October,
Yeah,
right, last year?
that's it. Yeah.
So you've been already doing pretty well because I remember when we start talking, you said that that your friend got back into the meds 1 year after surgery. So you already beat that number.
Yeah, I did. Well, actually, he was back on the mat within 6 months as well. But when I encountered him, it was at a year after surgery, and so when I met Nick, he was rolling at a super high level a year following. So in essence, we're on the same timeline, right? So I definitely I don't think I beat him in the recovery aspects. I think that he was the one that really showed me the way, and
But is
we talked
is he
about.
the same age as you?
No, he's younger.
Yeah,
Nick's a
because
younger.
younger people heal way faster, right? People, I mean, I'm 47, and a lot of people say, "Well,
Yeah.
age is just a number." Say, yeah, that's pretty cool to say, but the reality is, after 40, recovery gets a little tougher. when you were on your 30s.
Yeah, you're right, and that's why diet plays a crucial role, right? So if we need to ensure that we're putting the right fuel in our body to stimulate recovery, because to your point, at 46, I am not going to recover in the same timeline that I would, or as a 25-year-old.
Yeah.
And that's part of the process. We have to recognize that. We have to recognize that we're not going to bounce back as fast. We need to ensure that, in addition to the fuel that we're ingesting, that we're getting enough sleep. That's huge.
Hmm.
Sleep is the biggest thing that assists with recovery. And that's a big focal point for me. So I try to get at least 8 hours of sleep a night if I can. If I get six, I'm good. Anything less than six, and not a happy man.
Do you do any other type of recovery? There's a lot of things going on nowadays: cold plunge, cryotherapy, all that stuff. Do you do anything like that?
I do. So my recovery, I have a physical therapist that Dr. Hero was my physical therapist throughout my recovery. And I saw him religiously, 3 days a week in the beginning, right? Then it tapered off to once to twice a week, and we call those tune-up sessions. And so what I'll do is I'll go in to see Doc Hero, and we'll do an analysis of how my body's feeling, and he will address the areas that need to be addressed. It's truly a tune-up session. Following my tune-up session, I will typically do the Normatec boots, and then I will also do the cold plunge. And for me, the cold plunge, I turn that water down as far as it can go, and then I will stay in. If I can do a full 20 minutes submerged, I'll stay 20 minutes.
Wow, that's a lot.
Sometimes,
Wow,
yeah,
that's a lot.
depends how sore I am. Uh, yeah, but then the other thing that I'll do is I'll do fives. So I'll do the cold plunge for 5. I'll jump in the sauna for 5, and I'll go back and forth for an hour. And so that I found that to be more beneficial than the cryo,
Hmm.
because of the doing the compress of hot and cold. It really it gets that blood moving, which is what stimulates the recovery and flushing out that lactic acid.
Now that you've been through this, as you said, you don't want to say never, but you already also accomplished probably all the titles that you wanted to accomplish when you established that plan in 2016. There is anything that when you look back, you say, there is this thing, this title here is something that I wish I could still do it.
So, there isn't anything on my list that I need to accomplish.
That's great.
However, there I I'm very goal oriented. So, just recently I was encouraged to throw my name in. Nogi Pan Am's is 6 weeks out.
I can't believe that.
Registration registration was about to close. It was at 95% full. So I got a message through our team that, hey, it's 95% full, and I'm like, you know what? It's my birthday weekend. I like hanging out in Texas. It's a cool place to hang. So I threw my name in. Now, for me, I look at it as it's a training goal for me. If I had to make the decision today, if Pan Am's was this weekend, I would tell you I'm not ready, right? But in 6 weeks, could I be ready? I think I can. So I may. It is a strong possibility that I will be.
In Texas.
I will be in Texas at Nogi Pan Am's.
Yeah.
That is a very strong
That
possibility.
would be nice. I'll go there to meet you because I live here in Dallas.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'll be cool. That'll be cool. Wow, this is impressive. If you make this comeback, at no gi after this huge surgery because I was looking to the picture that you posted, and I believe you still have those screws, right? But they don't remove those screws from your back, right?
That's right.
So
Yeah.
that's like permanent.
Yeah. Yeah. I was hoping that they could do those the titanium. They could just do the rest of my body in it.
So you're not in.
Kind of like what they did to Wolverine,
Yeah.
but you know.
I have screws on my foot that I broke in 2020 during the Allstate Open. Um, it was during a takedown. It was a Linz Frank injury, so my foot broke it right in the middle. So I had to put two plates and screw there. It was horrible, and that's why I started this podcast because I was so depressed, unable to train and everything. I started interviewing athletes just to understand the mindset. So when I saw your story and it was kind of sad when you said that you were, it was very emotional when you said that this a realization that this will be the end of your competitive career. But then I started seeing the progress posts, and I was like, "Oh, this guy is gonna come back." And there you go.
So my entire network has been saying that. Like you're not done yet, are you? You're seriously going to come back. I'm like, hey, listen, I'm retired. Leave me alone. I'm retired. You know.
What
I
is your
mean,
wife position on that? Is she concerned that that this can actually affect you, or does she supports you all the way?
so is that I mean that's obvious. That's a very detailed conversation that we had about what's my motivation, right? And my motivation for so many years was all about jujitsu and accomplishing the very best that I could. And we used jujitsu as the catalyst for traveling the world, which was great. My wife and I talked about, okay, where would I be putting myself in trouble? Like what would be the worst case scenario? And so like getting thrown off a stage, right? That could be a pretty big issue. So events like Fight to Win, as much as I love them, it's an elevated stage,
Yeah,
and I've almost gone off that stage a couple times in my fights, and
too
so
dangerous, not worth.
it's way yeah. I already have two belts. As much as I love, I mean that's one of my favorite venues or favorite promotions to fight on. It's just amazing. It's not realistic for me. I'm not going to put myself in a position where I could um, I could I could get hurt
Yep, yep.
by going off a stage, right? The other thing is like tournaments. Hey, excuse me. My dogs are getting a little possessive. So the other tournaments where slams are legal, right?
Yes.
So I would stay away from those.
IBJ,
You know,
IBJJF is probably the safest one for you.
that there you go. So that's why we identified IBJJF as with me starting to flirt with the concept of actually coming back to competition. We've identified that IBJJF is a very safe environment for me to do so
Yeah.
because the athletes that go there are there for a hobby. They're not there for a paycheck, right?
Hmm.
We're in the Masters division. Nobody's going for belts or
Yeah.
and
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 money.
the, yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's a completely different vibe.
Yeah.
Everyone that I compete against, for the most part, I already know them. I'm friends with these guys,
Hmm.
and we're not going out there trying to hurt each other. Now we're going out there to win within the confinement of the rule set,
Yep.
but the chances of me getting or causing damage to my hardware and my back are very low.
Right.
So yeah, so I have the support of my family. If I didn't, I wouldn't do it.
Hmm.
If Kelly were to say that she didn't agree with this next one, I wouldn't do it, and that's it. She's always in my corner. It doesn't matter what I'm doing, my soulmate and I are always aligned, and when we're not aligned, there's a pretty good reason for that, and I got to take a hard look at why we're not aligned,
Mhm.
which typically means, Yuri, that I'm wrong.
Of course, yeah. I have the
I
same
mean,
feeling. I've been married for 24 years, so I know exactly what I mean.
oh, okay. So yeah, you fully understand. Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's no secret to success. Marital success is pretty easy. You have to understand, recognize when you're wrong,
Yeah,
and then quickly vocalize it, and then life is good.
absolutely. I think that's the secrets for longevity.
Yeah.
Well, Kodiak, this was such an awesome conversation. I truly appreciate you taking the time to talk and bring your perspective on this because there is a lot of folks that start late jiu-jitsu and they always feel like they are limited because they start late and mainly for master folks that are trying to continue to evolve. You are a great example of someone that not only evolve after your 40s and continue to get better but is now on this comeback. Is just outstanding. Thank you for sharing your story.
Oh, thank you for having me, Yuri. It's been a pleasure, and it's for anyone that's going through the same type of difficulties, right? We need to adapt and not focus on the things that we can't do, but the things that we can, and keeping our mind sharp. One of the things that really kept me sharp throughout my recovery is studying. So I studied my BJJ fanatics videos. I played a lot of chess. So I would play with my friends who would come visit me. I would go and hang out and play chess. I'd play chess online, but chess was it allowed my mind to stay sharp in the strategies, just like jujitsu is we're playing chess with our bodies. So, when we have these restrictions, whether it be physical or time or anything that is roadblocking us, the answer is not always to just give up
Yeah.
and get depressed. Even though that's easy to do sometimes, it's really easy to say, "Oh hell, I can't do what I love. I'm gonna skulk in the fact that I can't do that." That's excuse me for saying, but that's going to put somebody in a really bad state of mind. And I'm here to tell everyone that you don't have to be there,
Yeah.
and it's our choice. Our mindset is our choice. So even though we're going through circumstances which are tough, we can choose to have a mindset of focusing on the things that we can control, focusing on what we have, be grateful for the things that we have. Prime example, one of my dear friends, Ben Kunzel, suffered a debilitating injury where he lost all feeling in his legs and arms. So he went in for a fireman's carry, and his spine, his neck was dislocated, and he was immediate quadriplegic. Ben, super high level grappler, brown belt instructor at Fight Sports, competed in every major event. Awesome guy, and it completely just it interrupted his life. And now Ben is fighting every day. Right, he's 3 months from post op. He's still in a wheelchair, but he's continually to improve every single day. When I think about any difficulties that I've got going on, I take a look at this man and I say, Ben every day gets up and he puts 100% of the effort into the things that he can control, his fine motor movements, that right there, that we take for granted. He's focusing on this. He's focusing on his upper body strength, where he can move himself from a wheelchair into his bed or into the couch, and he's striving for his physical independence, but his mindset is amazing.
Yeah.
His mindset is it's everything. He's positive about how he attacks the day. He's positive about recognizing his 1% of progress that he sees. And it goes up and down. It's like a roller coaster for him where, he'll improve in one area and then another area will start to decline. And so have to focus there. and it's not all sunshine and rainbows for this man. He has true adversity that he's overcoming, but his mindset stays strong and true, and that's the difference right there. So if I can do it and Ben can do it, anyone who's listening, I'm telling you, can do it too. It's all about your mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been following Ben's story, and I saw the video that Cyborg posted with his comeback to the gym. Extremely emotional. Everyone was there. It was beautiful. So definitely a great story as well. And thanks for sharing that. But again, I hope to see you in 6 weeks in Dallas.
Okay.
If you go, I'll definitely be there with my teammates here. But thank you very much, Kodiak, and keep up the great work. I'm pretty sure that your days are not over, and continue to create goals and sharing gratitude. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me. Os.
All right, everyone, that's the wrap for today's episode. Thank you very much for your audience. Stay tuned. We have much more to come.